Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Family Entrepreneur Life live show. I am your host, Ariana, the other half of the Tom and Ariana. And today I have a very, very close and special friend of mine, Jaclyn Mellone, with us as a guest expert. Jaclyn is passionate about empowering entrepreneurs to take the leap from business owner to brand so they can make a big impact and income. She's a mindset and marketing coach, speaker, and co-hostess of the All Up in Your Lady Business podcast, which is an awesome, awesome podcast, and I love their name. She helps you channel your zone of genius, tackle your inner mean girl, and build the know, love, and trust with yourself and your tribe. And yes, mean guy for those men folk out there that are watching. When she's not helping entrepreneurs create their own version of success from the inside out, you can find Jaclyn spending time with her hubby, Chris, their two little ones, Eleanor and Marshall, which we have a very funny story about that, or being lounged on by their fur child, Louie. Oh, I love your bio, Louie. He's a good egg, that Louie. So, Jaclyn, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm like trying to share, so hopefully I did that right. But thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad you made it in. Jaclyn was stuck in Baltimore Airport yesterday, so I was hoping that she would make it in and be able to be on today, but she did late last night. So thanks for still being here.
What you wish for, right? I'm like, oh, I wish I had more. I had like so much to do. I wish I had some more time to work. And then all of a sudden, my plane is late, and we miss our connection. And so now all of a sudden, I have 6 hours to work at the Baltimore airport. Oh, not exactly what I was planning on, but it's funny how those things happen sometimes.
You asked for it and you got it.
Yes.
All right, so well, give us a little bit. Obviously, I know your background, but give everyone who's watching, fill in some of the gaps. Just kind of let them know who you are, what's your family dynamic, and then we'll dive into how you got started.
All right. So I have a 4.5-year-old and a 16-month-old. And, you know, it's funny. So I have been, I started my business about 2.5 years ago, and things have changed so much, sometimes almost monthly, and figuring out how to juggle this. You know, my hashtag was the juggle is real, and the juggle is still very real. This might be skipping ahead, but it's just such a important piece of the story of when I actually launched my first paid program, or was gearing up to launch my first paid program, Halloween of 2015. I find out that we're pregnant with our second child, which was not planned. You know, we always wanted to, but maybe not like at that moment. And then that Monday.
Sorry, Marshall.
We love you. That Monday, I launched my membership, and that Wednesday we launched the All Up in Your Lady Business podcast. And so it was like this week of just like immense transformation and so many big things, and just an emotional roller coaster. Like, talk about like every launch is an emotional roller coaster, but when you're like, I'm pregnant, it just like adds to everything. And that was like very quickly into, you know, morning sickness, and just, you know, I just went to an event this weekend, and it was my first event where I wasn't pumping, and I'm like, I am like a full person now. I got to leave the house and put on clothes and not bring a pump, and like being in the airport and not like trying to find outlets, and it was just an entirely different
how
experience.
Awkward is it while you're traveling? I gotta just say that is so one of the most awkward things ever, traveling. Like, I thought traveling with kids was difficult, but like traveling while you're breastfeeding is a completely different beast. Oh my gosh, never again.
Totally. So yes, and so it's just been this crazy roller coaster of a couple of years. And, you know, we keep adjusting as our family life has changed, and, you know, how I'm feeling pregnant, and then having a baby, and then trying to figure out how I'm going to still grow the business while having this little guy at home. And when was it the right time to get a nanny or do daycare and all of those things. And we've tried it all, and we just keep adjusting as the family seems fit. So I feel like we got a good thing going now. but I'm able to have Fridays home with the kids, and I have 2 full days to work, and then like 2 like 3/4 days to work. So I feel like I get enough time with them during the week, but I have that dedicated work time. And since this seems like a good group that would understand this, when I started my business, it was like, I want to start this business because I want more time with my family. I want more time with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get to that point and your business is growing and you want more time in your business, all of the mom guilt comes up, right? It's like, okay, like
so much mom guilt.
I started this business because I just wanted to be with my babies, and now my business is doing well and I need more time to work, and I want that time to work. It does not feel like work. I enjoy that work time, right?
Yeah.
But then that I've had to really work through that, like, it is okay. They're okay. I can have time.
I feel
for
like
them
that's not something that is often talked about. You know, everyone talks about starting your business and jumping in and doing all the things and building and growing, but they don't talk about like those road bumps that you hit when it is like, okay, well, now my business is doing things. Now I want to be in my business, but the reason I built it was for my family. And now I'm having to make decisions based on, okay, well, I only have so much time in a week. How much of that am I going to spend with my family? And how much of that can I put towards my business? And having the mom guilt, having the spouse guilt, having the business owner guilt of like, well, I'm supposed to want to be doing this, but I really just want to sit and snuggle with my kids. Does that make me a bad business owner? You know, and it's not a discussion that's often had, and that's frustrating because you get all those feelings of like, well, is this normal? Is this something everyone feels? Is this okay to be feeling? And kind of having to come to terms with that is really tough when you're by yourself. Whereas now I feel like there are more people starting to have that conversation. There's more moms talking about the mom guilt. There's dads even talking about the dad guilt, you know? So we've come into a very interesting time, and I'm enjoying seeing more people talking about it, you know, and being open about that.
Me too. I think it's so important because a lot of this guilt, it's an internal feeling, but it comes from external places. So when we're able to acknowledge each other and have those like Me Too moments and that like empathy type of conversation, it just like feeds the soul. And we're like, all right, like we're not alone. It's okay. And sometimes it's just a reframe, right? Like we feel that guilt because it feels like we're out of alignment. So if I'm just looking at it on the surface, I'm like, okay, family is the most important thing. And I started my business to have more time with family. And now my business is at a point where I want to spend less time with family, or it feels like that, right? Or I'm spending less time with family. Mm-hmm. We feel like we're out of alignment, and that friction that causes, can set us back in a lot of ways. But if we're able to reframe it and say, no, like I'm growing this business, which makes me a better person, which makes me a better mom. I'm able to show up for my family better. And if I'm able to provide more for my family, we're able to do more things together. And I want to model, going after your passions to my children, because I think that's important. Then we're still keeping that core value as the core value. We just need to look at it in a different way.
Yeah. And I think that brings up a couple good points. And that is, you're getting a lot of the feelings of guilt are coming from those external sources. They're coming from people telling you how you should run your business, and they're coming from people telling you how you should run your family, when really those are two things that are completely your choice, and you have every availability to create and live those two things in the way that you want to. So, I have a lot of different entrepreneurs that are different families. Maybe they just have a spouse, or maybe they have kids, or maybe they're but they've all been able to come at this from a different way. So some people have a spouse that is maybe not so involved in the business, and that business is supporting their family enough so that the spouse can say, hey, you go and do your thing. You run your business. It's something you love to do. It's something you're passionate about. And hey, I'm okay with taking a lot of the home life responsibilities, and that's a conversation that obviously as spouses you have to have, but there's a lot of ways and families that make that work. I'm passionate about this, and you're passionate about that, and we can make this work in our way, and that's okay. And then there's some families, like ours, where we're both in the business. So that means we both have to take on the family responsibilities, which means we have to have a lot of conversations and be very open with each other about who's taking what roles and when that has to shift a little bit. So, I think that's the beauty of being in business at this point in time, is you have every capability of putting that out there and aligning things in the way that you want them to be.
Totally. Oh, I love how you put that.
Yeah, I don't like guilt, man.
Right? Like,
I've had enough of the guilt. I'm gonna do it my way.
So good. So good.
So give us a little bit of, we don't have to dive too deep, but I would love for you to just give people like the timeline of when you first got started, and then kind of like you pivoted a couple times so far. And I think that's an important piece of your story. So I know about that launch, which I never realized your podcast and your membership launch were so close together.
So close.
But you actually started off doing some Instagram coursework, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is such a great, sometimes it's important to look back because you can connect dots that you could never really see before, right? When you're in it, you can't see it. So when I first started my business, and we're using the word business very loosely, right? Like it's a very loose interpretation. But I had an idea for a business and I decided to take action on it, right? But I didn't have paid products yet. I didn't have a website. I went to Instagram first and I poured everything into Instagram. And I had a marketing background. I had a business background. I'd worked for entrepreneurs with very big online businesses. So I had a background in this, and then I had given myself a whole 6-month podcast education where I literally did nothing. So I finally had this idea where I'm like, okay, we're going to take action. And I put it all into Instagram. And I did that for 4 months and was able to get a following and build a community on there very quickly. Now, I did not get any of those people onto my email list until a week before my launch. I do not recommend that. I was like, oh, I probably should have been like doing, but the week before the launch, I did a challenge and was able to bring 300 people together to kind of kick things off. And I did the nap time hustle challenge.
Nice.
Now the interesting thing that's important to my business now, when you look back at this time, is the name of the business was Chasing Dreams in Littles. There was a logo. There was this business name. I was not like a forefront in the business. So I was hiding a bit. I mean, especially on Instagram, right? I don't know what, and I look back and I can speculate on a lot of the emotions, and we can have like a whole separate conversation about that. But the reality is people look at me now and I talk about my business on Facebook, and I have a Facebook group, and I have an Instagram, and I have a podcast, and I'm so out there and open with what I'm doing and everything. So it's funny to look back, but at that period of time, I would join a Facebook group that was about entrepreneurship, and I would literally go to my Facebook filters and hide it from my timeline because I didn't want anyone on Facebook to like know that I was even interested in starting a business. So I had like 6,000 followers on Instagram, but I'm like, heaven forbid someone on my Facebook is going to like see that I'm trying to start a business, and then what, right? So I was hiding. But as you know, and as we met through the Screw the 9 to 5 community, and I was involved in Facebook groups and in some paid, and the paid community was Screw You, and I wasn't intentionally building a personal brand. But here's the thing: we all have personal brands. If you have a business and you're anywhere, you have a personal brand. So I wasn't intentional about it. And while I was trying to build this business all about moms and working from home, people were noticing that I was doing big things on Instagram. So by accident, I built a personal brand around Instagram, right? And it was such a blessing because it was like this blip of time in between being, having like morning sickness. And then I ended up on bed rest, right? So there's like a blip of time in between where I wasn't throwing up and I wasn't like medically required to be like in bed all day. And during that loop of time, I was able to make a lot of money helping people with Instagram and use that money to build the other business. But that was such an eye-opening moment for me of like, okay, in 5 years, heck, in 2 years, I knew I didn't want Instagram to be my thing. And so I knew that I needed to take control of my own personal brand and how people were getting to know me and what I would be known for, because apparently they just figure something out, right? Like we just, as humans, we just want to put people in buckets, and you're either not memorable or you're memorable. But if you're memorable, you want to be memorable about things that you want to be memorable about.
Exactly,
right?
for the right reasons.
So that was really a pivotal moment for me. And I was able to distill it down and be like, okay, this is showing up as Instagram because that's what I poured it into. But the reason why my Instagram works and the reason why now Facebook is working and the podcast is working is because I'm able to help people really figure out how to pair their zone of genius, their expertise with a dream client profile and create a brand strategy around that. So that's what I started focusing on. And then in growing so much as a business owner and in dealing with all of the perfectionism and the self-doubt and the procrastination and as the inner mean girl or the inner, for the guys, I say the inner bully.
The inner bully.
The inner bully. The inner bully thoughts that I've dealt with all of that, right? And so when I started to open up about going through that myself and open up and call in my clients to help them on their journey with that too, it really strengthened those relationships. And I was able to see much bigger transformations because what I realized is I could give someone strategy all day long, but if you don't execute on that strategy, results. And a lot of times we have all these other things in the way of executing on that strategy. So that's really where so my business from the outside has shifted and pivoted a bunch, but in coming to, January of this year, of 2017, I shed the brand, Chasing Dreams and Littles, but decided to own my personal brand. It's just Jaclyn Mellone and focus on these two things, which I was already doing behind the scenes, but nobody knew that. Nobody knew that because it was under this umbrella of Chasing Dreams and Littles. So as a marketer, that was such an eye-opening moment for me of I'm telling my clients to do one thing and I'm not reflecting this in my own business. And I didn't want to be everything and everything to moms. I really wanted to focus just on those areas that I could help people the most.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, from the back end of things that we were experiencing some of the same problems, some of the same issues. We were running a brand that it was not really the right personal brand. It was something that we had come up with and we thought everyone wanted, and we hadn't ever looked at who are we actually talking to, who are we trying to help, and where is that place that we're coming from. And so, I mean, you were a big part of helping us kind of walk through some of the how do we jump into the personal brand? What are the things we're saying? You know, who are we looking to work with? Who are we trying to help? And just coming to terms with that in our own minds. And then also, obviously, we have the complex part of having two of us. So it was we each had to come to terms. And then we had to come to terms together. And, you know, a couple times we butted heads about no, that's not who we're looking for. And, you know, really walking through some of our personal journey, how we could share that and how that kind of affects our own personal brand was huge for what we have now and where we are continuing to move forward.
Totally. And something I don't think gets talked about enough is that the bigger emphasis, especially for your marketing, right, should be on the psychographics and not necessarily the demographics. We get so caught up in this 34-year-old female with 2 kids who, you know, and who wears pink underwear, you know. And snacks on Quest bars throughout the day. Right? We get so we're told to get so specific, and I do think it's important to get specific, but I'm going to share why I think this is such a great mindset shift, right? So I say at first, don't think about any of that, right? start out with the psychographics. What are they really struggling with? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? And that's where with my own market, I'm like, okay, I know they're a perfectionist and I know they really want to make a big impact and they have big dreams, but they keep getting in their own way. So I'm able to connect with them on that emotional level of the internal struggle. But here's where having that more visual avatar, if you will, can help is now we can take all these thoughts and feelings that are really messy and we're like, how do we talk to this like emotional ball, right? And so if we're able to take that and mold it into like, this is a real person, and we're able to visualize that person, then that's when the magic happens, right? Because you're able to connect with them on what they're thinking and feeling, but you're able to use that visual profile as a visual profile. Not because we're only looking for 34-year-old women that eat Quest bars, right? But we're able to picture her. And that allows us to talk to our audience like a person and not like an audience.
Yeah. And that right there has completely changed how I speak in my emails that I send out. It's changed how I speak on live videos. It's changed how I put together Facebook posts. And I always had the hardest time with that before, especially when we were under our old brand, because I didn't even know what my role was or what we were trying to accomplish. So of course it was like super awkward when I was posting things, and it either didn't sound like it was coming from me, or it was like completely out of left field and had no relevance whatsoever, because I was just like, I would have these glimpses of my personality and then I would post something, but then it would go back to like me in the little shell of who I thought I was supposed to be. And then it would be like, okay, so who posted that? It sounds more like Tom than it does you. Did you like really write that? And I'd be like, well, I did, but I wrote it kind of thinking of Tom because that's where we were at that point in time. Right. And now you can totally tell the difference between the Tom posts and the Ariana posts in our group and in our Facebook page, because we're two different people, and that's part of our brand, and that's what we should have been doing. But, you know, you get all of those, the way that you think you should be doing things and the way that society and, you know, the world of entrepreneurs tells you. And it's hard. Sometimes it's really hard to break out of that expectation that I should be doing it this way. Instead, looking at what's my mission? What is the message that I'm trying to share? Who am I trying to help? And how can I do that as myself? So, you know, once I stepped into that and stopped worrying so much about what everyone else was saying or what everyone else would think, and said, hey, if I can start talking as me and I can help a couple people along in their journey, that's totally worth it. Like, I don't care if, you know, those other 10 people don't like the way that I post things on Facebook, or don't like that I'm obsessed with Big Bang Theory. Who cares? Those people that I'm talking to like that I'm being genuine and are more willing to be open to help from someone that they see as a real person, as opposed to somebody who's putting up that front.
Totally. And you guys do it so beautifully now. I love it. And there's the dynamic, like, it's such an advantage that there is two of you and that you bring different skill sets to the table and different personalities, and then your chemistry between the two of you. I mean, the whole thing, it's just so perfect.
Yeah. But I mean, look at how long it took us to figure that out. Like, I don't know why it was so different. We had it on the podcast. For some reason, we didn't have it across the board. And now that we've stepped into owning a personal brand, like, that doesn't mean you can't have other things that you do or different offerings or different parts of your brand, but owning that is who we are, and then kind of experiencing and exploring what we can do with that has been huge for us in our business and in our lives. You know, it makes everything work so much better.
It does. And a little nuance here that I want to point out that I think is important is your audience doesn't have to like Big Bang Theory.
No.
Right? Like, it doesn't have to be like, what's the thing? Like, and this is just like a small little blip of something I talk about that's probably similar to Big Bang Theory. Right? I love Dunkin' Donuts. And I
love Dunkin' Donuts.
I love Dunkin' Donuts. Here's the thing, like, it's not really that cool to love Dunkin' Donuts. It's not like Starbucks or like indie coffee. I'm like, and I would love to like, I mean, Starbucks coffee is delicious, or I'd love to go to like a little shop and just like sit there and drink like, a latte that has like foam in the shape of a heart or something, right? But no, I have 2 kids, and Dunkin' has a drive-through, and they have sugar-free flavoring and whatever, right? Like and I'm hooked. I run on Dunkin'. This is not sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts. Maybe it should be. But here's the thing. So a lot of my audience is like, you're crazy. Like Dunkin' is like horrible. And I'm like, no, I love it. Like, can we still be friends? But it's just when we share what we care about, what we like, whether it's something serious or something fun, like a TV show or coffee, it makes us memorable and relatable. And it's just, you're just being real, and people love that energy. You don't have to watch the show to just get the energy around like you wearing the t-shirts and loving it too, or me enjoying coffee, even if you don't drink coffee, right? Like, it's like, oh, there's Jaclyn with her Dunkin' again, So it doesn't have to be the thing that like your whole audience is also obsessed with.
Yeah. Well, and I think just seeing that you're passionate about something too, it's like, oh, I'm passionate about this, so I can totally relate, even though the things we're passionate about aren't the same. But like, oh, I get her. She loves this show, and I love this show over here. So obviously we'll sit and binge watch things, And also that whole aspect of being afraid to put it out there, of the things that you like, or like pieces of your personality, because of that fear of rejection. That's a tough thing to get over in the online space, because people are so easily behind the screens, trolling and commenting and calling you out, or saying mean things because I like Big Bang Theory, or I like to sing, or whatever it might be. That's tough to get over too. So it's, now you're not only dealing with all the guilt and all the things you think you should be doing, but then you've got to worry about, oh, well, somebody could troll me on the internet because I said I liked something. And it's really getting over that fear and saying, hey, who cares? That doesn't really affect me if someone is going to be an ass on the internet. Everyone, that's what people do. Yeah. So you just have to get comfortable with being you and being 100% you. And if you've got haters, then as they say, that means you've really made it.
Exactly. And, half of it is the fear of rejection, but the other half is I almost think this fear of, what would the word be? But like the fear of like nobody even caring.
Yeah. Not being like important enough.
Or just like, why does that matter? Right? Like, and it's a shift from a marketing perspective that we want to share these things. But I think if we're looking to create that deeper connection with our audience, we need to share things that we don't think people really care to know about. Like, you might be like, all right, but like, I really like I'm trying to think of what somebody like, okay, well, I write with markers. I don't write with pens. I write with markers. Like, that's like a non thing, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have a fear that people are going to like judge me for writing with markers and not pens, right? I mean, I could even make this would actually be a fun Facebook post. Like, would you rather write with a pen, a marker, or a pencil? Like I am not a pencil person. Like,
or if you're a parent, with crayons.
Oh, with crayons. Yeah, totally. Well, and I buy nice markers. My daughter takes them and she uses them and she pushes down so hard that they don't really write.
We have to hide the good markers in this house.
Yes. But it's just more fun to write with colored or have it be bolder, just, I don't know, it's smoother. I like it. It's such a little thing, right? But it's those little things that, yes, share that with your audience. Like, it's a fun conversation. It's a fun debate, right? I'm going to make a note. We're going to make that post. Which one would you rather write with, right? And now there's content off of like nothing, right? But now you're building that relationship. And I think that's the biggest switch here, is that we're not just like marketing to an audience, we're building relationships. And that means you have to share things that you would share with friends, and the more deeper things that you share, right? So that's like a surface level thing. But then when you're able to really get vulnerable, vulnerability is what really builds. connections. You know, the little things might draw attention or make you more memorable, but then when you're able to really open up in a vulnerable way, that's what allows you to create connection. And it's the same thing in real life, right? Like there's people I stand in line with at pre-K drop-off who I've never really gotten past to like, oh, it's a little chilly today, you know, kind of a conversation, right? And we don't have those real relationships yet. Whereas you and we've met in real life, we've taken road trips together and flown across the country together. Like we've had like real conversations and gotten vulnerable with each other. And that allows us to have a much better relationship than just the pre-K drop-off line.
Yeah. Yay. I'm so glad. Yeah, I luckily don't have the pre-K drop-off line, but we do have like the awkward school things now that we're in kindergarten. Oh. And I feel like I want to be open and like talk to people, but it's super awkward because they don't really want to talk to me yet. So I'm like,
you're so friendly.
I'm gonna wander over here and try the next family, and hopefully that one's not as awkward.
So funny.
Yeah, it doesn't help that our kids were like running around the room playing and like jumping on the carpet and like being crazy. I'm like, yep, those are ours.
Those are over there. Those are kids. They're so cute though. I love it.
All right, so this has been gold. I think that people are going to get so much out of this, but I do want to jump back to that one thing you talked about with people that are perfectionists and that procrastinate on doing things. You have a challenge that starts today, that's
like
tackling that.
Like at 1.
like in 30 minutes. All right.
Like basically, we're gonna get off. I'm gonna go get some fresh coffee, and then I'll see you at 1.
Nice.
So, but I'm running this very different. And I've been transparent about it because like I'm running this challenge like a group coaching program because hint, I'm about to launch a group coaching program. So full transparency here. But I was thinking about it, and this is while this isn't, if I was going to create like the perfect thing that would lead into my upcoming group coaching program, this probably wouldn't be it. I really wanted to create this environment to call in the people I know I can help the most, right? Because I'm there with you. Like I've struggled with all of this too. And we can't do anything else until we get past this, and to just see that there is another side of this. We don't have to forever live under these labels of I'm a perfectionist or I'm a procrastinator, right? Like we label ourselves as, and it's like labeling our kid a picky eater. Then we wonder why they never like get out of that, right? Like these are self-fulfilling prophecies. And when we put these labels on ourselves, it really gets in the way of getting on the outside of that label.
Yeah, Carla says I'm the queen of perfectionism and procrastination.
You're my people, Carla. I love Carla. Oh, Carla was my very first guest expert in the incubator.
Oh, I love it. She's a guest expert tomorrow.
Well, she's an amazing guest expert.
She is. I'm super excited. So is everyone else.
Yes. All the shout outs to Carla. So where was I going with this? So the challenge. So basically I'm like, let's come together and this is some tough conversations that we're going to have, right? With ourselves and hopefully with everyone on the call. So it's not on Facebook. I'm doing it on Zoom. It's very intimate. This isn't this wasn't like, how many people can I get in the challenge? It's like, let's get the right people in the challenge. Yeah. And kind of like a warmer, smaller audience, but where we can really work through these things that are holding us back and start to create momentum in our business through taking what I like to call imperfect leaps. So when I look back on those times when I was on bed rest and trying to launch a course and all this stuff and burnt out, when I look back on all the times where I was like, maybe not the nicest person to my family or totally burnt out and exhausted, right? Like those were the times where I was taking too much imperfect action. And I want to help people rein that in. So yes, it's important. The imperfect part is really important, right? So we're going to hone in on this. But before we can take the imperfect action, we need to be okay with not being perfect. Yeah. So that's kind of one half of the challenge, but the other part of this is taking a leap. And it's not just taking any action, but it's really focusing in on very specific strategic action that you can take that's going to help you towards your goal, and that's going to help you build momentum. And it's not just noise and activity and filling stuff up, but it's actually like leading you closer to your goal and building that momentum that makes it easier to build off of. So that's what the next 3 days are all about. And I'm really excited to just like go deep and help people kickstart some momentum, because Q4 is we got a big quarter here. So
I know. Yeah. We got to end 2017 with a bang. So we'll pop the link to the Imperfect Leap Challenge down below. And then before I let you go, I just want to hear if you've got any particular like pieces of advice or little lessons learned from your journey so far.
Relating to the business or the family balance of it?
Either one, whichever one you think is more relevant.
Ooh, all right. So,
or you could do one of each, I guess. That works too.
I think, in terms of for the business, being able to really embrace not being perfect and still doing it anyway, right? And not waiting for it to be perfect and all of these things, but to really say, like, you know what? I can change. I can evolve. Example A, this isn't forever. Permission granted. This is if you need the permission slip, so your permission granted that you can do something now, and next quarter you can shift and change, and that's okay, right? Like, we learn from that. I could never have the business that I have now if I didn't have Chasing Dreams and Littles. Yeah. Right. I needed that business to figure out what I really wanted to do. So I don't regret any of that. If I would have sat around and just tried to think about it for a year, right? Like, you can't. So to not be so to really try to break free from that perfectionism of it, this needs to be, or the pressure of like, this is the thing I'm going to do, and this has to be the thing I'm going to do forever. I think we're both really great examples of that. And this is why I think, and while you and Tom are just now intentionally having personal brands, you've always had personal brands. And that's why people have followed you through different group names or business names, right? Because they're connected to the people. And so when you have that personal brand, you can sell anything. I mean, look at Chalene Johnson, right? Like, she's got workout DVDs, and she's got books on productivity, and then she's like a marketing coach, like, it's so, but when you have that relationship, and when you take that time to really foster real relationships, you can change. Yeah. So I think that's where, like, having that personal brand piece is just, and that's how I've been able to change so many times and still have that following and still have that relationship with my audience.
Yeah. I love it.
And for the family side, I would say take some time for you. We're always so worried about everyone else, and chances are you need some time for you.
Yes. So. I'm so guilty of that one.
Put that on the calendar.
Oh my gosh, I've been
Tell your spouse, Jaclyn said, you'll thank me later.
Jaclyn said I need me time. So
Tom, this is for you. But now you have both of you, right? So it's not, so like each of you can do a swap time.
And we're pretty good. We're pretty good about like, okay, you need some time playing Destiny on PS4. All right, I'm gonna hang out upstairs with the kids for a little while. I'll handle bedtime, but then I'm gonna hit the books the next night, and you're on bedtime duty. Yeah, it works. I mean, it's a little bit to get used to, but it totally works. And being open and honest about it, and literally putting it on the calendar, best things we've ever started doing.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, Jaclyn, where can people find you? I know you've got Instagram and you've got your Facebook group. Tell us about all of these places where people can find you and hang out with you.
All right. So that's the easy part about a personal brand, right? Like, it's so you can go to JaclynMellone.com. On Instagram, I'm Jaclyn_Mellone. Or if you go to JaclynMellone.com/community, that'll take you to my Facebook group too. And then, of course, the podcast, I'll Open Your Lady Business. And we do new episodes every Monday and Thursday. And we've been theming our months, which has been really cool. So like this month, the whole theme is sales. And so all of our episodes are focused on sales. We have on-air coaching calls about sales. We're bringing on a guest expert to talk about sales. We have a really great roundup episode with people giving our roundup episode topic this month, which hasn't come out yet, is things that people do that make them sound salesy and what to do instead. I'm like, this is the longest name ever, but like, this is exactly what we want.
Yeah, I love that.
Exactly
I love that
what people
title.
need help with. So
perfect. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. We will pop all of those links to all of the things that we mentioned in the show down below. And if you've got questions and you're watching the replay, feel free to tag Jaclyn or myself in the comments, and we will pop back in and hopefully be able to answer your questions for you. Jaclyn, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all of the wisdom. And yeah, it's been great. I always love having conversations with you because we dive into some different areas and we pull out some different perspectives on things.
Yes. Well, I always love chatting with you guys too. And I love this community that you've built and how it's so family focused. And I think it's one thing we didn't get into, but I still work with all moms, right? Like it's still like we just get each other. Like I don't have that in my marketing, but it just happens by nature of being us. And it's the same thing with you guys. We've created this community of people that really get each other, and it's a powerful thing. So I love what you're doing here.
Thank you. And if you haven't heard of the community that Jaclyn is talking about, that is our Family Entrepreneur Life community on Facebook. And you can find that at familyentrepreneur.life.com. So thank you all for watching. If you are a replay watcher, thank you for jumping on and watching the replay with us. Jaclyn, thank you. I'm going to let you go so you can do your imperfect leap challenge
at 1 o'clock.
At 1 o'clock in promptly 17 minutes. All right, everyone. So bye. Thanks for watching.